Let me ask you, we found during our investigation a particularly hurtful incident um, when when your cat of 20 years was killed. And I hate to ask you this, but it is important that people understand the depth of what the emotional assault was. Can you tell us about the death of Midnight, your cat?
Princeton Theological Seminary brought in trucks. They were building the Wright Library, and they brought in trucks, trailers, and they parked it next to my farming operation, meaning my cottage, my well house, and my little buildings there where I park. And Midnight would eat supper and breakfast. And one day, all these trucks and trailers just parked next to each other. Midnight lost her environment. Um, and I was pulling out. It was the end of the farm day, and I was pulling out around these trucks and trailers, and I ran over my cat Midnight. And it's because she was probably trying to get to me to say goodbye or goodnight that day. And I ran over her because I couldn't see around the trucks and trailers. And I was devastated. I mean, I cried my heart out. Yeah,
Okay.
I call were all lies, John.
Okay. Okay. So now we're kind of getting closer to current time, and you hire Steve Janelle because you're concerned that they're moving forward contrary to what they told you to develop the farm. Tell us about Steve Janelle and the poking the bear story.
Well, Steve and Janelle just led me on for 4 long years. He was my attorney in the fraud lawsuit. Um, Steve and Janelle never did one motion in 4 years to the court, not one motion, not one order, not one opposition. Um, and I've asked him to, hey, Steve, get me into court so we can talk about this. And he, again, he was another lawyer who was protecting the seminary. And when I found out about my summary judgment that day before, he said, don't poke the bear, because I was at the end of my ropes with Steve and Janelle. And I said, when are we going to court? And he said, don't poke the bear. And I said, I don't know. I gave him my last check, I guess. And the next day I found out Judge Massey gave me summary judgment.
What do you suppose he meant when he said, don't poke the bear? What does that mean?
Oh, that means stay away, Dena. That means we're not gonna help you. We're not gonna get you into court. We're not gonna go poke the judge's time and money and
Do you
efforts.
think he was scared of the judge at all? That if he did really defend you, that he would get in trouble for it?
I don't know. He might have thought that.
Okay.
He might have thought that. I don't know what was inside his head, but he said to me 2 or 3 times, do not poke the bear. Do not poke. That meant don't poke the judge. So
And this, yeah, and he hasn't filed any motions on your behalf in 3 years, and then he says, "Don't poke the bear." That pretty much,
yes,
I think I got that right.
you sure did.
Okay.
Mhm.
Now, did you got a summary judgment that basically said, "Go away"? Did you have anything else happen after 2015? Did you get a restraining order put on you? By whom?
Barbara Nelson.
She put a restraining order on you.
my old attorney at Stark and Stark put a restraining order on me because I was writing letters to ask for proof of my escrow checks. Where is my escrow money of $112,000? Where is a copy? And that's why she was getting tired of me calling, stopping in the office, sending letters, calling my title agent saying, go sit down with your attorney to see where that $112,000 is. I even contacted the New Jersey Department of Banking and Insurance. I contacted the Division of Taxation, Marita Scarata, who helped me, by the way, with the IRS issue that we're going to talk about.
Yep.
And she said, she even tried to call Stark and Stark. She tried to call, Marita tried to call Stevens and Lee, but she said that her hands were tied to try to find that escrow money. And she couldn't cross the line there because she was the division head at the taxation. That wasn't her duty, but she was trying to help me.
Let's move on. Let's talk about, and you raised it a second ago, the IRS 8283 form, which is a donation form that when a 501c3 or a nonprofit charitable organization like the Princeton Theological Seminary makes a transaction like the sale or purchase of a farm or anything that changes their financial status, they're required by the IRS code to send a certain form in so that they know that you've made a donation. So that's a backgrounder on 8283s. Can you tell us what happened from the time of the closing all the way through all of your experiences related to that 8283 form?
Yes, I can. It was a horrific experience. Princeton Theological Seminary tried to sting me. It was like they were acting like a bee, actual bumblebee. They tried to cover it up. During this settlement, the seminary, when they received a gift of almost $2 million, the land's probably worth a lot more today. They're supposed to bring to the seminary, to the closing table at settlement, an 8283 form that Christopher Tarr at Stevens and Lee should sign. And it should be sent into the IRS on the next business day. And the IRS never received the 8283 gift of $2 million that I gave to the seminary until 9 years later. I received a bill from the IRS in 2018 for $557,000 out of the blue sky. Get a bill from the IRS in the mailbox and open it up. And so then I start calling people. I called the seminary, I called the accountants, I called the lawyers, I called everyone I knew to try to straighten this out. The seminary would not help me, except they did finally, after litigation threats, to sign this 8283 form. I had to get another appraisal. I had already given them an appraisal of the farm value, but I had to get another one, and I had to spend $2,500 on another appraiser with Chris Otto and give to the IRS. It was just step after step after horrific experience after trying to get out of this $500,000 bill. So finally, by the grace of God, John Gilmore signed that 8283 form 9 years later. So why they didn't do it for 9 years, I don't know. maybe because they were trying to not let the IRS know. Maybe it was their personal reasons about not crossing the line with governmental agencies. I don't know, but so finally they signed it Halloween, October 31st, 2019.
What happened in the interim? What happened because of all of this? What did the IRS do to you?
They put a lien on my house, and I had to live with that, trying to get that removed with the prothonotary in Doylestown, Pennsylvania, and told them my story. They said, well, I'm sorry, this is a governmental lien. And I said, it's not my fault. It was a horrific experience for me to try to get.
What else did they do? What else did they do?
What else?
Yeah, we found in our investigation that they had taken away your passport. They revoked your passport.
Yes, yes.
And they did a number of different things that were not only humiliating, but also very, very strange under the circumstances.
The IRS took away my passport. They put me on a no-fly list, and they treated me as a criminal, basically, that I could not leave my country.
All right, let's devote a little more time to Mr. Robinson, who was one of your attorneys. What did Mr. Robinson do in this process?
I met Mr. Robinson at the appellate court, the Richard Hughes Justice Complex, and he told me he would take my appeal. And he was an attorney who I hired, and he signed his name to the appellate court, and he promised he would do all of the appellate documents, and he did not. And I kept calling him, and it was the same thing as I experienced with the four. There was a big ring, a gang at that point. And so then Mr. Robinson stole my documents for a year. And
how did you get your documents back eventually?
I called the attorney ethics in Trenton and filed a complaint. And it took 6 months.
So this is the group that works for Judge Rabner, who's the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court in New Jersey, where they handle all of the issues associated with potential or possible attorney misconduct. Did they ever investigate any of the attorneys that were involved in your case?
No.
No. So they helped you, you said, with Mr. Robinson, but it took a year for them to get what happened as a result of that delay for a year?
What happened?
Was your appeal rejected?
Yes, my appeal was you only have so many days to do an appeal. I think it's 30 or 45 days. And I begged Mr. Robinson to get the documents in within that time. He let all that time go by, not contacting me, saying maybe a couple of times he said, I'm working on it, but he was not working on it. Then he said he needed all my documents and he wanted to meet at Wendy's. And I met him at Wendy's and I gave him a whole truckload of documents. You saw them. They were on my porch. Tall files of documents. Why he kept them for a year after I called the Cherry Hill police to try to get my documents back where he practiced in Cherry Hill, New Jersey. Why he kept them and why the police didn't go knock on his door to get my documents, I don't know. But it just seems like everything was like I felt like everything was covered up, always swept under the rug. There was no ever transparency with police, with inquiries, with investigations that I wanted. So finally I got my documents back and I met you soon thereafter. I think I met you.
Tell us about how you found out about us, the Institute for Complexity Management, and tell us how that process worked. What happened to you during that process that changed your view of what is happening?
I contacted James O'Keefe, and James O'Keefe said, I have the perfect investigator for you. And he's helped me. He put me in touch with you right away with a conference call. And you told me about the corrupt judges in New Jersey, and you told me about his experience a little bit, and I go, oh my God, I just found a savior, someone with a backbone who knows what I went through with my cases. I've had 4 or 5 cases in the state of New Jersey. And you explained to me about the churning of documents. You explained to me about, what is really going on in New Jersey.
Mm-hmm. Did you know before you got in March 20, I think it was on March 24th, we issued our final report, and I gave you a phone call. And we talked for well over an hour on the phone, and I went over the report. Did you have any idea prior to me telling you in a big picture what happened to you, that you were a victim of a scheme to take your farm, a real scheme, a criminal scheme to take your farm?
Oh, John, you opened my eyes to RICO, and you opened my eyes to land development schemes with the Princeton Theological Seminary. Yes, you opened my eyes.